Innovation. Good afternoon, everybody, once again. We'll start just now. On behalf of the G20 Global Land Initiative, I welcome you to our pavilion, the Restoration Pavilion. And as mentioned on Monday, we opened up the innovation stage. So each afternoon during lunchtime, we will be having some bright ideas, bright individuals presenting what they do as far as land restoration is concerned. So we have sustainable today. We have the sustainable initiatives in conservation and innovation. And we will have 4 speakers. We have Andres Bisono Leon from the Dominican Republic, from SOS Carbon. From Net Zero, we have Mohammed Al Khalid, Saudi Arabia. Brinda Diwan from Nepal, from School Kitchens, didn't show up, but we will have representation from her via video. And our last speaker will be Fernando De Luca Pezzella, and he is from Ceres Seedling. So without further ado, I'll invite our first speaker. Andres, the floor is yours.
Awesome. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Andres. I am from, indeed, the Dominican Republic. Pleasure to not only represent the Dominican Republic, but the Caribbean, the Americas, and the smaller island states suffering from climate change in multiple phases and ways. At SOS, we have a mission to propel a global sustainable agriculture from invasive seaweed mitigation. And it will start making a sense in just a second what that means. We are an MIT spin-out from the mechanical engineering department with also being conscious how to work in emerging markets and deploying technology that is sustainable for the different ecosystems, putting first the local communities, putting first the environment, while also thinking about financial returns and really making it a sustainable business model. So, it's working. Sorry, in the screen it's not working. So we already know how climate change is affecting us all in multiple ways, right? It's not just about our land, but it's our ocean, our ecosystems in many forms. Agriculture. We have already been discussing throughout just the 3 days, 4 days that we have a COP, right? The pressing challenges. We need, better food systems. We need better soils. We're losing it all. It's not just about what we need, but we're also losing it, right? So how to preserve that and ensure we will have the mediums for a better tomorrow. The other challenge that we have been working at SOS is seaweed invasions. And we have been combining multiple challenges, not only to drive a larger impact, but also, again, to build a sustainable business model that have multiple segments and thus allow us a greater scalability and interest to the private sector, for the private sector. So we have been transforming this crisis, combining them, and basically just to walk you through a little bit first what we have been doing, we start at the SOS carbon logo. First at the beach ocean step with the invasive seaweed. So we provide ecosystem restoration, ocean restoration by harvesting the seaweed before it makes landfall, before it is a problem to the communities, to the economies, to the human health, and the local ecosystems. Then the next step will be the supply chain of seaweed. The seaweed industry is more than $10 billion globally. So why not take advantage free raw material, to not say it in different terms, right? As long as we can deploy a sustainable, cost-effective technology to retrieve this raw material, we should take advantage of it. So we have built an infrastructure where we provide the seaweed to third party that process it all around the globe. And then we have our own processing in multiple products. The one we have been focusing is on biostimulants, that is kind of say organic fertilizer, where we seek two main benefits: increase crop yield while reducing synthetic fertilizer use. And we are in the R&D stage for other products like bioplastics, other ingredients for cosmetics, and so on, animal feed as well. And then the fourth step throughout this chain, we get carbon offset through two main ways. First, when we avoid seaweed, invasive seaweed, from making landfall, we avoid it from rotting and releasing back carbon and methane. So that's the first step. We're getting our carbon offsetting, our carbon credits. And the second step is by replacing petroleum-based, chemical-based material like synthetic fertilizers through our organic biostimulants. Here is in a bit of an illustration how it works. First, we harvest a seaweed where we employ the local infrastructure, the local boats. We take it out, retrieve it in a sustainable, efficient condition. Each of our system has a capacity of 10 tons per hour. And then we take that again as a supply chain or process it for our own use. Currently, our biostimulant, marine symbiotic, is being applied in over 15 different crop types, from avocado fields to rice, tomato, and others. And we are seeing many benefits throughout the entire crop life cycle. I will go into them in a second. We have been focused in the Dominican Republic. We have 2 million of cultivated hectares, 2 million hectares that are already in place in the food system. And we're looking, that's our beachhead market as we expand to other territories. But our product is currently being tested in Colombia, US, and soon will be in Spain. So here are some of the benefits we already have seen by applying marine symbiotic. For example, in this image here, we see a comparison of beets, the beets, like a vegetable that got a pest, and with our product, sure, it has characteristics of having the pest, but it's like only 5% of the comparison. We have been applying it in over 20 hectares of plantain. Also, we saw zero mortality rate when we first planted the plantains in comparison to the rest. We also, for example, here, this is a pepper without and with our product, the difference in the maturity of the plant. And also very important, these results up here were in tomato. We got a 43% yield increase in the weight, but we also had more protein and more bricks content. That speaks to the quality, the quality of the fruit. And we have been very eager to work alongside committed partners, the G20, GECO, ITC, and many others who have supported our journey and committed to the work, the mission that we're putting together. I will leave it here for, I don't know if we're doing the Q&A now, later, but happy to engage, to meet you all, and also get to learn what you have been doing and how we can take marine symbiotic to the different countries around the world, and really join forces in our common mission. Thank you. I do.
Any questions for Andres from the audience? Yes, right over there.
Hi, Anders. Absolutely excellent presentation. Just a question on, you had mentioned one of the outcomes being the carbon offset, but then the products that you have, bioplastics, cosmeceuticals, all of them involve processes that would then put carbon back into the equation. So how does this equation work? As in, is it still carbon neutral or negative for you in the whole equation?
That's a great point that you bring, and really our priority is indeed to maintain a carbon negative throughout the entire chain. So already, because of the work we're doing in the seaweed harvesting and then the avoiding other materials being used, other products, we are carbon negative, to be direct in your question. But in terms of the production, we have been also very conscious about the energy that we use, about the different mechanisms that we put together, not only because of the scalability sake, but as you well point out, because of that carbon neutrality or negative, negative carbon that we need to that we're selling and that we need to keep.
Thank you. Yes, we have another question over here. I'll bring the microphone to you.
Hi, thanks Andres for this presentation. So I'd like to ask how, during the recollection process, how the fishermen and the local people that help you, well, not, yeah, that do that, have responded to this new process of recollecting sargassum with all its challenges.
Thank you. And that's a great question to also clarify that when we talk about impact, we have built a model in which we formally integrate the local communities, especially the fishermen in the harvesting activity, meaning we provide them a formal job. And I mean, it's not like we're trying fishermen to, leave, fishing behind. They can do that in their spare time. But already ecosystems, not only land, have many pressures, right? So let's take some of that out and provide incentives in real formal jobs. And that's what we're doing again with the fishermen. So we employ them, formally, full time. That way we can also sell the service to the paying customers, meaning the hotel or the power plants that suffer from the seaweed invasion, and will allow us to put together an effective and efficient operation for the harvesting.
Yes, one more here.
Sorry. just because I'm from India, I'm just asking this because of the extensive coastline. I just wanted to understand your collection process is how far from the coast do you initiate the collection process, and does this have an impact on the rest of your marine life? The collection, is it subsurface or is it a surface collection, and just the impact on marine life? Thank you.
So the going first to like the mechanism, the seaweed that we are here, mitigating, it's only at the surface level. So with our equipment, we only skim the surface, not disturbing any other marine life around it. And by the way, this equipment has been certified to operate in the U.S., for example. So we have followed very strict, guidelines, regulations in terms of how to deploy it. With that said, in terms of the where it happens, how far from shore, it depends on the local conditions. What do I mean? There are some areas that have a wave intensity, that will require us to maybe be 200 meters out, or very close to the shore, like 30 meters out. Other locations might have coral reefs and have very shallow water, so we might need to adapt to that as well. So it depends on the local conditions, and with this equipment, we have been able to really face those the local environment in a proper, responsible way. Thank you. Awesome.
Yes. Any more questions from the audience? I don't see any, so we'll call up our next speaker. Thank you very much, Andres, for that. Next, we have Mohammed Al Khalid from Net Zero.
Hello, everyone. For those who are coming here to Saudi for the first time, welcome to Saudi. I hope you enjoy a great time. My name is Mohammed Khalid. I'm the founder and CEO of Net Zero. If you come to Riyadh 5 years ago, this is what you're going to see. It's a fully degraded and desertified urban land. And it is costing the economy in billions every year through direct or indirect issues, whether it's rising heat in the city, heat island, the usage of energy to cool down the building, or even the lungs disease that people get from inhaling dust and air particle. But the good news is that in the past 5 years, there have been a mobilizing effort. Everybody want to do something about it. Everybody want to make their cities green. And companies now want to engage more in the environmental initiative. They want to offset their carbon emission. Now there's mandates, there's incentives, there's a carbon market. And finally, the Saudi Green Initiative was launched in the kingdom. This initiative aims to plant 10 billion trees in Saudi Arabia in the coming decades, and 50 billion trees in the entire Middle East and North Africa. But also, the initiative aims to reduce up to 278 million tons every year. So it's a massive initiative, and it requires contribution by every sector. That's why in Net Zero, we developed a one-stop shop for companies to invest in nature, to invest in restoration activities, especially in urban areas. Why in urban areas? As you can see, we live in an arid environment, desert ecosystem, so water is very scarce, and that means the soil is not as fertile. Planting a tree in this region is much, much more costly and difficult than planting trees anywhere else in the world. So we had to start somewhere. We had to start in the urban areas because that's where people live, but also that's where a lot of water infrastructure exists. You have gray water, you have irrigation water. So we want to leverage that resources and start making our cities greener and then expand from there. So Net Zero started by looking at how can we make the entire process transparent and cost effective. Most of companies, they don't look at nature investment or environmental investment is because they don't see a tangible impact. They don't see the impact, the result of that investment at that time. So that's why they focus more on the social causes, social initiative. So when we came in Net Zero, and this is the first company in Saudi, we went to those companies and we said, why don't you invest in nature? Why don't you at least start by greening cities? And we will give you all the data that you need to see your impact. Every dollar that you spend on the environment or nature, you will be able to see the ROI of that investment. So we started by developing 3 products or 3 technology: Tree Map, Tree Log, and Tree Wallet. Tree Log is a data collection tool. As you know, if you come to Saudi, I don't know if you see in the airplane when the airplane descends, see that we don't have forests. Our trees are not in dense formation, they're sparse, they're separated, right? So it's very difficult for us to rely on remote sensing because remote sensing data is not really high resolution enough to detect and measure the impact of each individual tree. Then there is the drone, right? A drone is good, but at the same time, it's costly if we want to implement it on a large area. So we had to innovate, and we developed a ground level data collection tool. We built an app that uses AI and machine learning to detect the tree, the species, the location, the height, the dimension, and everything, and be able to plug in the allometric formula to estimate the above ground carbon biomass of the tree. In some project, we do use drone to measure the before, during, and after the project impact. And then now we started also using satellite data. So if we combine these layers of data, we have the most accurate aggregation of data possible. Then we were faced with another challenge, is that most of these data are not in real time. They've been captured in the moment, and then you measure the impact. But what if I want to know if the tree is healthy now? Because in Saudi, if you don't maintain the tree, it will die. It's not about planting trees, it's about growing and sustaining trees, and that's the most difficult thing. So we had to develop our own sensors that can be plugged into our system, and we deploy those sensors all over the place to give us real-time data on the soil condition, on the water condition, and even on the trees' growth in real time. After we collect the data, we visualize the data. That's what companies and investors want. They want visibility. They want to know where every tree is planted, and they want to know where every tree, how it looks like, what's the condition, and what's the impact of the tree. And finally, we built a social engagement tool. We said, what if all of us have trees planted in our name? What if we can see our trees? So we enable companies to gift trees to people, and that's sort of social responsibility, maybe PR. It's an incentive for companies to engage with the community, and we made it possible by allowing companies to plant trees on behalf of people, communities. So they'll be able to see how many trees they have, what's a carbon remover from those trees. They'll be able to see every single tree's profile, the location of the tree. Each tree has a certificate. And last but not least, and it started as a joke amongst the team, who said, if we have that much data about the tree, what if we plugged in GPT? What would the tree say? And we were shocked by the result. You can literally talk to the tree, and you can talk for hours. The amazing thing that we did here is that we even gave the trees Google Maps data, air traffic control data, weather data, all kind of data is being fed to the tree. So it knows its height, it knows its species, it knows its age, and it knows everything that's happening around it. So every time you talk to it, it will respond to you depending on the temperature of that day. If it's really hot, it will give you a bad attitude. Say, oh, it's hot today. Why don't you come by? If it's rainy, it says, oh, today is a romantic day. Why don't you come by and pass by me? And sometimes when it's your birthday, it sends you a message, says happy birthday. So this kind of engagement, we wanted to do it because we want to connect people with nature. We wanted to work on the awareness aspect. In Saudi, people are not familiar or not really used to engaging with trees, because we've been missing that. So that's one tool that we wanted to develop to make that connection. Since we have these kind of technologies, we were able to develop environmental and social initiative at the same time. So when companies come to us, we tell them, why don't you do a social initiative, and everybody who participate in this social initiative, you plant a tree in their name. So Boba, which is an insurance company, they launched a campaign called it Run for the Planet, and for every person that participate in this marathon, Boba will plant a tree in their name. A lot of people started running. Then another company came to us and they said, we have a Al Hilal Club. It's a famous Saudi football club. And they said, for every goal Al Hilal will score, we're going to plant 100 trees. They broke record this season. And then another football club said, we want to plant 200 trees for every goal we score. So we simulated competition between football club. And they plant trees in the name of the fans. The Young Leaders Program, we said for every book a child reads, we're going to plant a tree in their name. It's all for free. It's just a social simulation. It's social encouragement. Work Ready Women Program, for every woman that participate in this program, we plant a tree. For every newborn child in this hospital, the parents would receive an SMS message saying, congratulations for your newborn. We have planted a tree in the name of your newborn. And they'll be able to see the tree. The good thing is that those trees are not planted in another country. It's planted in the same neighborhood. They can go and see it and interact with it. For every woman that does an early screening of breast cancer, they get a tree planted in their name. And that's, I think this is one of the most successful, in my opinion, case of social engagement.
I'm sorry, Mohammed. I think we're almost out of time.
All right, excellent. I just want to finish this off. So this center is a free center. It's not a non-profit organization, and they want to encourage women to come and do early screening of breast cancer. But it has underutilization. No one comes to them. So when we launched this campaign, they kept achieving their KPIs every month because women wanted to come for the trees. And many different social initiatives that we wanted to do. And in 1 year, we managed to plant more than 500,000 of trees in cities. Something that we thought it's impossible, but we managed to do it in a record time. I never thought that we would reach this number, but we did it very quickly. And that's 2023, by the way. By the end of this year, we reach 1 million trees in cities.
Thank you for
Thank
that.
you all. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we will have the documentary. We'll leave some time for you at the end for questions, if that's
Sure,
okay.
sure.
Thank you. Karen Sidma, Dr. Karen, will be giving us some remarks on the documentary as it loads. Thank you.
Good afternoon, colleagues. Let's try that again. I'm not sure you're still awake. Good afternoon, colleagues. That's much better. My name is Karen Sudmeyer. I'm an education expert with the G20 Global Land Initiative, UNCCD. And unfortunately, our colleague from Nepal did not get her visa last minute. So I wanted to present the Wildlife Conservation Nepal organization, which has been doing very innovative environmental education work in Nepal. What they have been doing is really spearheading and innovating a green education program. And they have been working with the mayor of Kathmandu to try to get all Nepali Kathmandu schools to start a kitchen garden. Kathmandu is a city that's very crowded with very few green spaces. Schoolyards might be the only little space where children can play in Kathmandu. And so we thought we'd do a documentary about their work. And here is a 6-minute documentary. Please enjoy.
I was born and bred in Kathmandu. A kid growing up in the 80s, I have experienced the best that Kathmandu has to offer. I have swam and played in the Bagmati River. I have gone on long bicycle rides in the green forests and in the alleyways of the city. It breaks my heart now that children don't have spaces to play in at the moment. And this is why we do what we do, trying to secure places of play and learning for children of Kathmandu and elsewhere in the country. I'm Sanjeev Shrestha, Director at Wildlife Conservation Nepal.
मेरो नाम चाहिँ निता कुमारी थापा हो म कक्षा 8मा पढ्छु म 14 वर्षको भएँ क्लास 10 क्लास 7मा हामीले विभिन्न प्रकारका टिचर्सहरू थियौँ त्योमध्ये लेखक अनि पाउली गायिका
The Green School program is based on the motivation to create connections with nature for the children and the community. This program allows the children to actually engage with nature in a more meaningful manner. They don't learn about nature through their books.
किचन गार्डन गर्न मात्र चाहिँ हामीसँग कुनै रोजगारी नभएको बेला हामीसँग थोरै ठाउँ भयो भने हामीले खरिदबारी गरेर हामीले केही पैसा कमाउन सक्छौँ र हामीसँग खानेकुरा नभए पनि बाहिर किन्न जान अल्छी लाग्छ पैसा नभएको बेला पनि घुम्ने भएर किनेर
The Green School program has 6 themes for building kitchen gardens, on building green spaces, learning about energy, how to manage waste, learning about how to secure water and be water smart and be creative. Three advice that I have for somebody wanting to start a kitchen garden anywhere in the world is to find that one person who will implement and drive the program forward. That could be a teacher, that could be a principal, somebody who lives in this institution. The second would be to find support for this person. For example, this person basically has in your school, their parents, in municipality, just finding ways to make sure that the program has enough support and then we can build a community. And then the third one would be to find resources. Not big resources, big money, what we call low cost and no cost teaching resources. You can actually start very basic with soil and with some seeds, but the idea about how to teach it is the answer to having a very successful garden program.
मेरो फ्युचरमा चाहिँ सोच्छ कि म चाहिँ एकदम अहिले राम्ररी एकदमै पढ्छु मेरो नाम चाहिँ एकदमै ठुलो होस् होइन मलाई चाहिँ डक्टर बन्नु मन छैन कतिपयलाई हेर्छु म पैसा नभएर उपचार गराउन चाहिँ गाह्रो भइरहेको छ होइन र म मेरो स्टार्ट गर्ने चिन्तै गर्छु
The program we've built over the last 20 years is now integrated into the formal education system of Nepal. Now that a local government like Kathmandu Metropolitan City is investing their resources and money, it actually allows us to be models that can be replicated across the country.
Yeah. And next, I think yeah. Thanks. Stop that. And next, we'll have a presentation from Fernando.
Hello. Hello, everyone. My name is Fernando De Luca, co-founder of Seti Seeding, and today I would like to start my pitch by presenting to you Ms. Lula. Ms. Lula lives in the community, in a small farmers community called Serra dos Toledos in Minas Gerais, in Brazil. And I met her in 2020. At the time, she was dealing with severe wildfires that were spreading quickly into their farms because of the huge number of degraded areas we had over there. And she told me, an environmental specialist, that suggested her the implementation of an ecological and land restoration project around the area to help them to protect their natural resources, their animals, and their crops. But she lives in a mountains area, and it's really expensive and really hard to implement projects like this on those regions. And that's not the only problem caused by land degradation back in my country. There we have more than 150 million hectares of degraded areas, endangering more than 3,000 species. And to tackle those problems, today, public and private organizations relies on traditional land restoration methodologies that often suffers with high price and high operational complexity, principally in hard-to-access areas. And thinking all those problems and the problems faced by Ms. Lula, we created Seti Seeding, a Brazilian startup that develops technology based on biodiversity to enable the use of automated drones in different land restoration processes. Today with our drones, we can work by mapping degraded areas and preparing them before the planting. We work by planting the native seeds and by maintaining and monitoring ongoing projects. To work with different native species, we've developed two main technologies. The first one is our own seed dispersal system that was developed by us to be compatible with the huge biodiversity we have in Brazil, enabling the use of seeds in different formats and sizes. And the second one, our own seed coating techniques, where we use organic materials to provide better germination and establishment conditions to some of the species we use in our projects. We have drones as well to work with that data and image capturing to help with mapping the degraded areas and planning the most optimized projects and missions, and for monitoring the ongoing projects by analyzing some different vegetation indexes, biomass calculation, and biodiversity identification. And now we started to work in the preparing process as well and in the maintaining, bringing in even more efficiency in different types of areas and terrains. According to some of our clients, we are the startup in Brazil that has the most range of different native species we can work. And comparing to other UAV companies that are using this technology in the land restoration scenario, we have three main differentials. The first one is that we develop technology based on biodiversity, and that gives us this biggest range. The second one is that our technology is easily replicable and adaptable to different ecosystems and regions. And the third one is that we have solutions for all land restoration processes, not working only with the planting or only with the monitoring. This is our team that together has more than 6 years of experience developing automated drones and more than 10 years of experience with forest restoration and agroforest projects back in Brazil. Up until today, we've already planted 54 hectares of degraded areas, working with more than 70 different native species and buying our seeds from traditional and indigenous communities. In 2022, we were able to execute our first projects. We have executed projects in different regions from Brazil, working with different clients, and achieving up to 30% of cost reduction and working up to 6 times faster than some traditional methodologies they were used to implement in their own projects and areas. By the end of the next month, actually, we will have planted more than 120 hectares with different clients in 2 different ecosystems, and by the end of the next year, we're expecting to reach 500 hectares of degraded areas with our projects implemented. We were able to receive support from different organizations, and we raised more than $130,000 from private investment, government funds, and grants to develop not only our technologies but to structure our business. Today, we are focused on project selling. So we work with three main types of clients. The first one are carbon credit and net zero organizations that relies on ecological land restoration projects for the carbon capturing. The second one are organizations with legal obligations of implementing land restoration projects, and we do work as well with some institutions that have voluntary land restoration efforts. But that's not the final business model. We're working to become a technological package company where we can train and support our clients and communities to use our technologies while still helping them in the intelligent services behind it. And that would be planning the most optimized missions, processing the data and the images for the mapping and the monitoring, and by elaborating different types of reports. For the next year, we are focusing on two main goals. The first one is scaling up our operations, our current operations back in Brazil, and that's why we're hiring new team members and buying new equipment. And we're focusing on expanding our solutions and clients portfolio as well. And that's why we invest in sales, marketing, and new solutions. We do all of our work with the main goal of enabling the restoration of 500 hectares of degraded areas by the use of our technology and training and supporting our partners and communities. That's our contact, and do we do now the...
I'll ask all the speakers to take seats on the stage, and then we will start with Mohammed's questions, if that's okay. Yeah. Anyone with a question for Mohammed from the audience? Yes, I see a hand over there. Yeah. Andres, if I could ask you to sit on the stage as well. Thank you.
Okay, hello, everyone. Thank you, Mohammed, for such an incredible initiative. I admire your initiative, and your presentation was very clear. But I want to find out how you're able to fund this initiative, being that most of the planting you do are free for some of your initiatives. So I would like to know, please, how you're able to fund.
Okay, thank you for the question. It's a really good question. We do it for free for people, for individuals. They just have to participate and engage with companies. The ones who are funding these are companies, private sectors. They have their own ESG and carbon reduction goals, but they don't know what to do. So we come in, we said, how about we help you engage with the community and at the same time offset your carbon emission by planting trees.
Very clear. Thank you.
Thank you. I see another hand behind you. I'll just head there.
Hi, thank you also for your presentation. My question is, how does the monitoring process of the trees work for your company? Because I imagine that here in Saudi Arabia, it must be way harder than in other countries, no? For example, in Mexico City, I know there are some initiatives that are kind of similar, but I wonder how you do the monitoring for the trees. Thank you.
Is this question for me or is it? Okay. So yes, you can imagine how difficult it is to plant trees in a desert and arid environment, especially in cities. And we try to use drones, but our trees, when we plant them, it can't really be easily detected. And if you're dealing with cities, you cannot fly drones all the time. You have issues with permits. You have issues with low altitude flight. So we had to innovate. So we've worked in the past year in developing sensors that we can attach to the trees. And we managed to actually design and manufacture sensors. But we wanted to do it at a very low cost, because if we want to install a sensor on each tree, it has to be very cheap, right? So we were able to design and manufacture very small sensors, very, very cheap, less than $10, that can be attached to trees, and it can give us real-time data on the growth of the trees. And it is so fine, so sensitive that if the tree is suffering from stress, it can detect that because it's not growing or if it's fluctuating. But then we had an issue with the connectivity. How can we send this data to the cloud? So we added functionality in the sensor that is able to send and receive data. So we created a mesh network, like sensors communicate with each other and then all trees communicate and then send data through the gateway to our cloud. So we mimicked the natural route communication, but digitally. So that's how we managed to actually monitor some of our trees. But we haven't gone to a massive scale yet. And I look forward to see what the challenge there. But I truly believe that every problem has a solution.
Thank you. Any questions for Fernando? Yes, over there.
Hello, I am Dr. Meena Bilgi from India. I'm sorry I came late, but I heard him. And my question, I'm interested to know to what extent the women are involved in your project. I mean, especially in planting trees and things like that, benefiting women entrepreneurs and things like that. I hope I'm clear.
Well, it was supposed to be for Fernando, but we'll let that one go.
How women are involved in this? Actually, most of our workforce in the company are women. Actually, 70% of our team are really creative, innovative ladies. And when we look at the statistics, who engage with us more, even planting trees or even using our app, the majority are women. And it's a really good to know. And we actually predicted this, but that's how much they are involved. But we've also done several initiatives that are related to women. For example, the Work Ready program. So we created an initiative with the U.S. Embassy here in Saudi. They developed a program to prepare women for workforce. So they do training, and for every woman that participate in this program and graduate, we plant a tree in her name to symbolize that achievement. So these kind of initiatives there, but I think women are engaged in everything. Women in Saudi Arabia and by the way, they are higher numbers of women in STEM field in Saudi Arabia than men, and that's more than almost everywhere in the world. So I think they are heavily engaged.
Thank you, Mohammed. I'll ask you, Fernando, what does innovation mean to you? I'll come back to your question. Thank you.
Yeah, so I think that innovation it's using the your known expertise or your known already knowledge into solving problems that you never thought on using it. So that's what we did. Our expertise with autonomous drones. I had never had experience with land restoration projects before, and I think the innovation is there. Is taking a solution that you see in other sectors and trying to adapt and trying to use in the most optimized way to for being the solution of other problems. What I tell people is that the land restoration scenario, the ecological restoration, is something really new. Before technology, construction didn't have efficiency, agriculture didn't have efficiency, infrastructure didn't have efficiency. Everything is new methodologies and new technologies. So I think for me, that's the meaning of innovation.
Thank you. And we had a hand in the audience.
This is for Fernando. My name's Rebecca, and I work with the indigenous peoples. I'm an interpreter, but I just hear a lot of concerns about seeds. and the fact that, do you have like some kind of protocol when you take seeds from the communities? Like, do you have some kind of protocol established, like free, prior, informed consent to work with them and get their permission? Just curious.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much for the question. Actually, all the seeds that we buy comes from traditional indigenous communities. Back in Brazil, most of our suppliers are from seed collectors groups, and they work regionally through nature-based solutions and through the forest. So our way of trying to get the money back to the traditional indigenous communities is using them as our suppliers. Today, there are several organizations that are helping those communities to be more structured, to have a bigger scale, and a lot of indigenous communities back in Brazil are having a lot of benefit from land restoration, not just because of the land, but because of the fact that they had the most knowledge on collecting the seeds and everything. So I mean, we do have protocols, of course, and we use those communities to help us building those protocols as well. So that's how we do it in Brazil, and they're actually a huge part of the whole restoration chain. They are the main suppliers, and working with seeds, it's what's enabling them to be able to sell those.
Thank you. And we have one last question. I think we have time for one more.
Thank you for your presentation. My name is Adipetoho Anita Lokoa from Botswana. I'm curious because I'm a hunter and gatherer, so it's different, but the problem is the same. So we are living within game reserve and national park. So we are restricted from doing other things. We don't plow. So we live through our natural resources. But climate change is hitting us, and we need to restore our indigenous plants and stuff. Have you come across those who are living within the national parks or game reserve, and have you done projects with them that carbon projects and restoration? Because for us now we are shifting to tourism, and it's also polluting the environment at the same time. So we need to do projects that are
Yeah, so we do work with a lot of different types of communities. Most of the times, our impacts are on really degraded areas. So there are not a lot of communities living on the areas that we actually plant. But back in Brazil, indigenous and traditional communities most of the times are responsible for big preservation areas. And they actually, I've worked with them. They know how to use drones better than a lot of different companies that I had the experience, and they do appreciate the technological help as well because they are fighting a bigger problem than ours. I think they are fighting for the restoration and for the conservation as well. So in a general manner, I think that like most of the communities that we work with had already some bad experience with different types of business and the impact on the environment. But they, at least the communities that we work with, they have a really optimistic vision relating to new partnerships and new technologies that they can use as well. So we've already helped actually some indigenous communities that had got some funds from government, for example, to buy their own drones and to monitor their area to make sure that big farmers aren't invading their territory. So yeah.
Thank you. And I think that brings us to the end of our session. I hope it was a good session for all of you. I'll just ask the audience to give our speakers a round of applause, and we'll have a family photo.